Hey, I'm Steve from the Infamy team. Today I'm going to be doing my Overwatch League 2021 power rankings. Hoping to get them in before all the big boys drop theirs. It's definitely the hardest year to do the power rankings, I think, so far, because one, every team has changed like drastically for the most part, and two, they've all but two of them, I'd say, have vastly improved. So it's really just a question of, it's not a question of who's better, but who's betterer than everyone else, and like if you've made the necessary moves to bring you up against everyone else's. A lot of these teams fuck, but some of them don't fuck hard enough, and I will happily point those out. So let's start at the bottom, and I'm going to start with the Overwatch League retirement home. So I don't think these guys quite have the depth or the other any dimension really to compete with any of the other NA teams, except maybe the European ones. And honestly, I don't think we'll ever see them go head-to-head because they'll both be at the bottom, but I don't think they would even beat Valiant, new squad, so gotta put them at the bottom. But speaking of Valiant, I will put them right in front of them, because I know there's been talks that they're beating one of the Chinese teams, one of the Asian teams in scrims, but I don't care. This whole power list, I'm going to be going for kind of an end of season look, so you can't harass me until the season's over, and you would have had to remember this video for that to be the case, so I've done my job in that case. So yeah, I'm really trying to kind of plot out how teams are going to be looking at the rankings are going to be looking at the end of the season, not the first week, or whatever you want to do it, because it's going to be super volatile. So at the end of the day, this is kind of the order I think things are going to be in. And oh god, the bottom. You know what? I have no faith in a Contenders team. Sorry, I know you're the best out in Contenders, but I think you will, as London Spitfire will have a early advantage with such a pre-established team chemistry, but because the off season has been so long, I think that advantage has gone out the window a little. A lot of teams have gotten enough time to scrim like crazy and build that chemistry, and while it's not the same as playing in an actual game, I just don't think that they're gonna have the longevity of a run to really impress anyone in the end. And speaking of which, Paris also not gonna do it for me. I do think that this team does have some like big key players. Like I think Elevote's super underrated, maybe not super underrated. Who was it? Khan was really good in that one tournament. I don't know. And I do think because Rush will probably be pretty viable, at least for like up to the first tournament. I think they'll be able to snag some wins there against teams that are less equipped to that. So I think Paris will kind of land a little higher than London in the long run, even if they might not actually be a better team than London. I just think they're gonna maybe sneak a few wins that otherwise other teams won't. What else we got? Yeah, this one hurts me. Actually, no, it doesn't. I love this one. Houston Outlaws. Boop, boop, boop. Houston Outlaws, definitely their best rendition yet. I think a lot of the changes they made are good, but not good enough. Like I said in the beginning, every team has really upped their game in the offseason, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to stay on pace with them. You know, they have some really great players like Dante and Happy, but other than that, I'm not super familiar with the tank line. It's got to be better than the previous years, so they have that going for them, but like I said, better isn't better enough. And Yeah, the only Hail Mary I'm actually kind of big on the Jake signing because I think he does kind of have a good understanding and could be a good player coach, but I don't think that'll be enough to make a big difference unless it's that Junkrat meta. You know it's coming. And finally, now this is the one that hurts me. Freaking Atlanta Reign. Because this could be like the best DPS lineup in the league. Okay, probably not, but it's still really good. I'm super hyped for Pelican. Kai was amazing. Edison's always solid, but I just don't think they have the supporting players. This is going to be a recurring theme where like a lot of these teams have crazy DPS lineups, but every team has a crazy DPS lineup. It's you need the depth, okay? And I don't think they're bringing enough dimension with what they have. I think they've really just gone down from gatekeepers to like mid-tier or whatever they were last year, and now they're just, gatekeepers of the bottom tier. And alright, moving to C. I'm gonna put the Lions over here. I just don't think that they're gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah, I just see way too many ways that this can go wrong. Just from like a coaching perspective, most of all right here with Gesture. I don't think he should play basically at all. Winston, sure. I don't really know how good Marvel's Winston is. Can't really remember back to season 2. I'm sure probably Fissure played anytime Winston was prominent, but he wasn't prominent, so that's why I don't really remember. But other than like maybe off tank, I guess I don't know how good 2U's off tank is. Not seeing it. I am pretty hype on Creative. He was pretty great in the last tournament. In Animo, I feel like season 1 he was like, maybe because it was Mercy meta, but everyone was really all on the Animo hype train, but he's fallen pretty far below this new talent on main support. And my boy Sabioli, I think he's still got it, but I think there's just too much dice roll going on here. Even like with a consistent hitter like Prophet, Fitz, who's always pretty good, and I'm big on Marvel as well, but I just think overall it's not happening here. Let's see. Next, I feel, you know what? I'ma switch it up and go with the Charge, which is like another case of this team fucks but isn't gonna fuck as hard as everyone else, I feel. Eileen is insane. Krong really, really good. These two have been super hyped, but again, that's just like a cracked DPS line, which is the bare minimum right now. I think Rio is pretty good as well, but just not great. I think this support line is pretty mediocre in the grand scheme. This would have been great maybe 1 or 2 years ago, but the bar is risen, and I don't think they're going to be able to bring it, especially with some tight competition over in Asia. Where they're going to land at the end is going to be pretty low. But a team I'm pretty excited for, I think has some big possibility, is Boston, because they just honestly, just because Myungbong, I just think he was insane last year, like standing out on a flex support while your entire team crumbled around you. That's just must be noted. And now he has a solid main support. I think Halo did okay like on the Brig, but now he's got like a real main support and a real main tank, even though I don't rate Stand 1 that highly. Punk is okay. Yeah, but the more I look at it, the less I'm convincing myself. But I think Valentine is cracked, but the rest, I'm not digging these. Not super into it. Yeah, I don't think I can put them above the Charge. I just can't. And next, I'm super excited for this team. Also might be too high, but I'll stick with it just in case, it pays off in the end. Is Toronto Defiant. Again, looking at it, they just look very Swiss cheese, like, you get blinded by Lastro and the support line is supposed to be really good, and Sato and Hisu, I think Hisu gets a little underrated. I think he can be like a staple, like a backbone for this team. I think he'll be a big credit to them. And Logix, if they can find a way to incorporate him, always good to have. Michelle, another person, I think gets a bad rap because of he was good on Sombra, so people are like, oh, that's all he's known for. But no, he was a solid diva, and hopefully he's solid in the other main tanks as well. And good tank line, great support line, and some great DPS. I think they have the potential. I might be having them too high here. You know what? Let's commit. All right. Okay, B tier. We're gonna start with the Spark, which for a team that didn't change much is a really big question mark for a lot of people. What is going on? This huge roster of Chinese and Korean players, it's really going to come down to how well they integrate within each other. I know people are really hype on these tank pickups, which is great. Gushui, my man. And the supports are pretty star-studded as well, like super well-rounded. I don't think they'll ever be shy for anything. But it's more the DPS that I'm really not convinced with. I think Godsby was crazy good last season, but I'm not the Architect fanboy that everyone is. And I don't really know what Summons is doing on this team. Shy is pretty dope. Yeah, I think it's really just going to come down to how well you can cross-pollinate here between the Chinese and the Korean players, because it's just like you have all this talent, but if you're shoehorned into having to stick with one or the other, it just feels like a lot of talent is going to go to waste here. So I don't see them quite being as good as their potential might allow them to be. But I'm a bet big on my New York boys, though. Always been a New York fan. And I think this DPS line, while I've said, everyone has a good DPS line, I think this might be like a great DPS line. So a little above the standard now, the super high standard that's set this year. And just like 4 solid players that can fill in with whatever you need. Really no weak link there. I think Yakpun really impressed me actually in the, open scrim, I guess, against Charge. It doesn't mean much, but I think he's back for a reason. I was a little skeptical, but he was part of Toronto Defiant, who did pretty well their first stage. I think they made stage playoffs or whatever it was. So I think he's back for a reason. Jonak cracked as always. It's really these two that have me questioning, Bianca and Friday. I think they might hold them back from going any higher than super middle of the pack overall. So, but the DPS line is that shit. And now to A tier. Another team I like is Florida Mayhem. Florida, they have a lot of fallout potential. Obviously OG is a question mark, and whether he'll be at the peak that we know him or he'll just kind of go down and bring everyone down with him. I do like that it is a small roster actually, because it's you're gonna make it work or you're not. There's no backup. Make it happen. Maybe they can get a change mid-season if they need. But I think this will be the year OG stonks rise, because it's his last year to actually do it. So maybe that pressure will help him. It could hurt him. But I think the rest of the team is so great that it should make his job easy. And, just knowing all those other roles are to such a high degree, it just less pressure on you overall. Like Yaki and BQB are freaks. Slime, I'm hoping, kind of lives up to his hype. He hasn't really shown anything outside of, Runaway in Vancouver, which is another situation where it's like, how much do you really need to do? Or maybe you're just a piece that only fits with these other pieces. So we'll have to see if he actually can slot into another team and find that success. And this boy does not get enough talk. Gangnam Jin is definitely a top flex support, and I think between him, Gargoyle, and Yaki, I think the rest are so good that they'll kind of ride like a rising tide raises all ship. I think they'll really keep up with them and just make out a baller-ass team. And other A-tier team are my team, Dallas Fuel. Maybe because I've lived in the Fuel cycle of misery for 3-4 years now, I'm tempering my expectations. But honestly, as a fan, this is like, I love this team. I just think this is like a team I want to root for, even if they're not, a busted ass like shock roster. Like, I think they have just like big potential, and it's going to come down to how well they actually mesh together, because people say like all this Element Mystic crew, but they've never played as an actual team. I'm hoping the coaching staff is able to really take their knowledge of all these players and meld them into a unit. But standouts for me are Hanbin, absurdly good, Xe, absurdly good. Between Doa and Sparkle, you have all those weird heroes covered to like a crazy high degree. Fearless, I'm not sure how well-rounded he is. I'm thinking he is, but at the very least, he's going to put on crazy performances on the Winston, probably the Reinhardt, hopefully the Wrecking Ball, and then what? Yeah, you can hold the fucking shoot button as Orisa, it should be fine. And it's actually the support line, I think, that might be the weak link people are looking at. I really like all these players a lot. I think the double flex support is solid to have. I think that's a role. It's pretty good to have some competition, even if it isn't a double flex support meta. Just kind of keep pushing each other, because it's such a competitive role. You always want like a really high level flex support. And Jesse looked really good on Houston last year. Like, not easy to do, but he really did look good all the time, or most of the time. So, but people do have some question marks on him. I like the small roster, like, solid team camaraderie deal, but we'll have to see. I just don't think this might not be the year. I think they might find some success in some metas, but I think overall there's just better teams that are going to keep them down a bit. Let's see. S tier. This is a swing. I honestly don't know if it'll pay off, but Hunters could be the year. This team is crazy. Look at all these boys. Amen can be as wild. Like, I think they're gonna find a nice balance between like their usual craziness and like being able to just play normal comp if you really want to, or if you need to, because you can't always get away with it, but it's a good ace to have in the hole. And if it is Wrecking Ball is ever prevalent, you have 2 crazy good Wrecking Balls just ready to go. Maybe different styles that you can experiment with. I think subs can be really great for this team and throw them off. I think Elsa and Late Young, I don't think Elsa's bad. It's hard compared to like such a high, standard of flex, off tanks, flex tanks, whatever. So that might be a weakness, but I think the rest of their team is so good. I hope Yvitel plays. I don't know what the deal, why he's a 2-way player. Just really want to boost that tier 2 team, I guess. And most of all, they have Jimmy. Jimmy is rookie of the year, no doubt. At least in our hearts, he's I don't know shit about Jimmy, but that name is amazing, and I'll always be happy to root for someone going by Jimmy. And this one's tricky. I think Philadelphia looks crazy good. I know they're having visa issues. Like, it's really gonna like depend. Does Funny Astro actually get to play? Is he gonna play on Crazy Ping? I don't know. Will the ping balancing system make it so it's okay? I don't know. But I think this team looks crazy good. Mano's one of my, as a main tank player, Mano's one of my favorite players ever, but he's really the big question mark, him and Poco. Like, what does that tank line actually look like? I have no idea. And are they gonna continue their aggressive style? Like, it's hard to imagine Mano having much trouble with Funny Astro and Alarm as supports, because, it could be questioned whether they're the real reason Sato had the big turnaround last year. Everyone was like, why don't get a backup main tank, blah, blah, blah. But you can be as crazy if you want, if you have Alarm and Funny Astro supporting you, but will Mano want to go that crazy? I think it's going to be a big test for him to want to shift that play style, because he's just always been such a great defensive, like, counter-punchy main tank, and I think he's like a very smart player, so I don't think it should be too big a problem. I think they'll still be punching with the top dogs, but even at their best, I just don't think they stack up to these other teams. And who is next? Gladiators. Could be the year. They're always solid. Even last year they didn't do quite as bad as people thought. I'm pretty sure they were like 10th and beat out the Valiant overall, who everyone was like, oh, an amazing year. But this could be the year. I think Shu and Moth is just like ridiculous, and then skewed for backup, and Space is always solid. People are kind of lukewarm on Muse. It seems like main tanks are pretty short supply, so definitely a good pickup. And people really love Kevster. I am unaware. I'm ignorant on that one, because it's really the DPS line that I'm a little skeptical of here. I think Mirror's a good player to have, but I kind of wish they'd get a fourth. Maybe they will at some point. I don't think Birdring's going to have issues. I think he was pretty consistently amazing last year, even as they were struggling. So with everything else around him getting better, I think he should still be putting out those crazy performances. So yeah, good year for the Gladiators, but not as good as my boys, the Washington Justice. I think they are, I don't know if you can call them a sleeper pick, but I think they're ready to win the league, honestly. I think this tank line is number one, except maybe behind Shock. It's just ridiculous. I think Rhea also good. You never know when it might come in handy, but I think he's a kind of underrated player that I was pretty glad got to play somewhere. Could be a good role player. And I mean, Decay, you're already S tier with Decay and any decent supporting players around you. Jerry, great just dedicated hit scan. Tuba and Assassin can do their thing. And then of course, everyone always points at the support line as the weakness here. And I'm gonna need everyone to stop talking shit about my boy Bebe, because while he's not the most flashy flex support, I think he's always been a great asset for the Spark, and especially his first season, I think he was very standout. I think they struggled a little more in the following one, so people kind of want somewhere to put the blame on, and I think it landed on him a lot. People considering him just a little out of depth compared to the other flex supports, which could be true, but I think you don't really need a crazy pop-off flex support with a team this good. I think he's going to be a great role player, consistent as always he is, and yeah, I don't think you're really going to have any problems with him. But on the other end, closer, I'm a little more skeptical of. As a Dallas fan, I was just constantly like a little confused by things he would do last year. So going off like history with like Spitfire, like I think maybe being on a more a full Korean team and like a fully like good team, I think he's kind of like he'll rise with the players around him maybe. Like I think you'll get his best performance with this team, but I'm just not sure how good that performance will be. And which one? I want to say Dragons, but I can't. In number 2, I will have the Dragons because you got rid of Fearless, bro. What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't know. Fade is great. Fade is very, very good, but I don't know. He's just a question mark. You don't know if he'll vibe well with the team. He's always been pretty consistently solid on no matter what team he's with, and you still have these amazing pieces with the support line, and you even got a better DPS line with Erster now. But I'm just not convinced that they're number 1, you know? We'll have to see. I'm hopeful that there'll be actual like challengers to the Shock because they are still fucking ridiculous. It's just not fair. I wish I could have an interesting power ranking with them at the top. I'm still saying Washington is my pick to win. I think they will grow. I think that's what all the teams need to do. They need to like really grow over the season, which is going to be tough because it's so short. They really need some to grow as a team to be able to stack up against like this monstrosity where you just have like a top 1, top 3 at most like player in every role. There is some hope because they might be thrown off kilter a little, losing Moth, losing Rascal, having to slot in, and Ons having to slot in these new players. But it's hard to think that because their new players are also just like top notch to add to their embarrassment of riches. So it's hard to see a world where they don't win, harder to see a world where you can't have them as your first fucking slot here in the S++, or just S+. Yeah, but that is my take. I was kind of hoping for a less generic list than this, if I'm gonna be real. My hottest takes here would probably be Seoul and Guangzhou solo, but I think, only 8 teams in Asia. Someone's got to get pooed on. I think they're the bottom of the poo here. I'm really hopeful C tier is my jam here because Boston and Toronto. I'm really hopeful for those teams. Those it's hard to call them scrappy when they just like have a bunch of like crazy Korean talent, but now the whole league does. So I'm hoping they'll put up some good fights, get a lot of the unexpected wins. You never know. I think it always happens where there's a team where you're not sure that kind of seemingly come out of nowhere, and I think those are 2 good teams to look at. New York, another one. They have big potential, but could also fail out, and no one would care because it's a rebuilding season. Dallas also just not sold. I think hopefully the team is the fans are generous with this this gift they've been granted but I feel like they'll be as rabid as always and just be quick to panic if they don't really hit it off right away. But I do think they'll hit their stride towards the end, and I think in classic Dallas fashion they'll get good towards the end, but not quick enough to really make the final push. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Let me know what you think. Harass me in the comments. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. We have the Infamy Esports Podcast. Weekly, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, and sign up for fantasy esports tournaments at infamy.gg. Thanks.